Let's review Weeylite Ninja 200 bicolor LED light. This is ArtIsRight. Before we start, subscribe if you're new and hit on the bell icon so you'll be notified every time I upload cool new videos like this. Weeylite sent me this Ninja 200 for review. All the opinions you're about to hear are my own. So we're going to talk about this light in depth. We're going to talk about the LED itself, the construction, the overall feel of it. How does the electronic work? What function it has? We're going to test the light using its iconic color meter. But before we get to all of those things, I want to talk about what comes in a box. And you can certainly choose numerous kits with this light. So you can order with just the light alone. You can order a light with a caddy for a battery, an NP type one, or you can also order one with like a grip, and there's many other things you can do. But at the very basis, what you get is a nice nylon carrying case that you see right now that also has a shoulder strap. Chances are, if you're a video pro, this would be one of many bags that you're going to carry on location with you. Inside this bag, there is a power adapter. And the nice part about this power adapter is that it comes universal. Something like this. What you simply do is choose the type of plug that you have based on the location you live in, lock it in, and pretty much this is ready to go. And this means that the power adapter itself can take anywhere between 100 to 240 volt. It can work anywhere in the world, which makes it really awesome. Beyond that, what you get with this light kit is a reflector. And the reflector itself can just go onto the light because there is a lock mechanism on the very top. And what you simply do, very similar to a Bowen mount, is just line up the notches, lock it in. When you're ready to unlock it or take this out, simply press down and rotate this reflector out. Some of you may ask, what happens if you don't want to use the reflector? Can you mount a Bowen compatible softbox or an umbrella to this? The answer is, on the light itself, you can't do that. However, they have included this plastic accessory that will adapt the Weeylite mount to a Bowen mount, and you would simply just line it together, put it on. Now you have a Bowen compatible mount and also the thread to put the umbrella in, including a lock. It also comes with a light stand mount, which I feel this is a part bin kind of thing where it works for other lights and they just put it onto this one because it happens to be compatible. It happens to be the same mount, but it's not really designed specifically for this light because you won't really need this. At least I can't come up with a reason why you want to use this anyway. But otherwise, this is pretty good. It's made out of plastic, but I mean, what else do you really want, right? At this price range, I think it works fairly well. Beyond that, what we get is a Bluetooth remote, which can be used to control the light. And the way how they have designed this is rather interesting. So you don't need to do any pairing process, and this is not paired with this specific light from the factory or anything. You simply turn the light on, turn this on, have it on the same channel in the same group, and it will work. And that is the exact same thing that you would do on the phone app, on the Weeylite phone app that they have, which I find rather interesting because it doesn't answer a lot of problems. It doesn't really go through the pairing process before. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. One more thing about this Weeylite remote is that it uses 2 AAA batteries on the very back of it. So that's just something you have to put in. It doesn't come with the battery. Beyond that, what you get is a manual, and I will say that the manual is written in English. However, it's not written very well. I feel that they just take the Chinese manual and just put it into some translation program and it just translated out that way, where there are a lot of broken English. And when it comes time to solving a problem, for example, trying to link the remote up or trying to link the app up to the light, it doesn't really provide a lot of answers and solution that you really need to know. So some improvement in the manual portion, I think, would be a great idea. In addition, my kit also comes with the WB2, I believe. Yep. It is the WB2 battery adapter. This can mount directly onto the side of a light and allows you to use NP type batteries to power this light. So if you're on location, you don't have access to a wall outlet or a power source, you can simply just use battery to power this light. A couple things that I found out about this caddy and adapter is that on the very bottom of this, there are 2 output ports. One of them is the barrel type connector, which you're going to use to power up the light. And they do come with the barrel type connection cable that you will use to link between the caddy and also the light. In fact, I'll plug this in because we're going to be running this off battery power just to test it. And simply, when you want to mount this, just twist and turn these 2 things on the side. It's pretty convenient. And considering the weight, the light itself is under 2.2 pounds. In fact, it's under 1 kilo. So it makes it very simple, very easy to take on location. It's super light. I haven't talked about this yet, but let's quickly go over the construction of a light. The body itself is made out of light aluminum, which makes it very strong, and it also dissipates heat very well. The front and back, though, is made out of plastic, which is one of those things that it doesn't feel like the best. It doesn't feel premium like the rest of the product itself. That's just my only one feedback about it. And I worry that if you drop this for some reason, or if this takes a lot of stress, it may cause some crack or fracture down the road. It is something that can happen. So that's just something to keep in mind, because all the mounts and everything, including the adapter, is plastic, and this is also plastic. I think if there was some metal reinforcement, it would have been better, but that's my thoughts about this. And with the barrel connection, you would simply plug this into the bottom. The other connection that's on the bottom of this battery caddy is a USB Type-C, and that allows for charging of the battery. So for instance, if I have these on a caddy, I can charge it via the caddy, and it makes it a little bit simple, a little bit convenient in a way that you can just use the caddy itself as a battery charger. But there are some limitations. Number one, it can't charge via USB Type-C and power the light at the same time. You can't do that. Hence, there is a in and out switch that you have to toggle up and down. So in meaning that you're going to charge this via USB Type-C, and it's only going to charge the battery. If it's out, it will provide the power output into the light, and you can then power the light using battery. You can't do both at the same time. There is the eject button. This will eject both of the battery from the, or this will push down the latch that will allow you to eject the battery from the caddy itself. And what you simply do is mount the battery in. This is an NP type battery, as I mentioned before. And for this, you have to use two batteries at the same time, because one of them will not power the light alone. You have to use two. Once we put the battery in, you will see that there is a combined total percentage between these two batteries, and this is toggled to out right now, meaning that I can power this light on by flipping on the switch, the on-off switch, and it will take power from the battery without any problems whatsoever. So this is like a cool thing. The controls on the light itself is fairly simple. You have a USB Type-C on the light. However, that's really only used for firmware updates. So if you ever need to update or do anything like that, there is a M button or menu. So if you hold that down, you can go into like 4 different things that you can change. For there's Bluetooth mode, there is a temperature awareness mode. So if it gets too hot, it will turn off. There's a fan mode, to which you can turn off the fan, because this is set to turn on automatically and it can get quite loud. So if you want to turn it off, you can do that. And lastly, there is an update mode. So you have to go into update mode before you can really run through the update. One thing that I also want to point out is that even if I turn the fan off and I have committed to this setting, for instance, the moment I turn the light off, unplug it, plug it back in again, it just automatically turns the light on. In fact, I don't even need to unplug it. I can just turn this off, turn it back on, and the fan would just kick on. So the setting is per session, which kind of makes it really annoying. I wish that it would be a little bit more persistent. As far as the mode on the flash go, this is a really cool flash because you have a bicolor LED. This is a cob LED, that means chip on board. So there is a chip behind the LED that control how it functions, and there's another circuit board that's on the back of this thing that controls the light a little bit further, and this allows you to interface with the light and tell it what to do. For instance, you can do different percentages between 0 to 100. You can certainly go in and choose a color temperature, and because this is bicolor, you can go from 2800 Kelvin up to 8500 Kelvin that produce extremely blue light. Because, well, you're not really going to see that much of a blue light on camera the way how it's captured, but if I turn this down all the way to 2800 Kelvin, you're going to see the light becoming a little bit warmer, and it is a little bit warmer on set. So you can certainly do all those things. There are other modes that you can choose. For instance, if I press this, there is a scene mode, and there are a few scenes that you can choose. For example, I think this is supposed to represent like a firework or something going off, a rocket. You can change the speed and you can change the power. So there's some creative mode, but it is limited by the fact that this is only a bicolor, meaning that it can go from really warm to really cool color. So the 2800 Kelvin to around 8500, but it can't do all those fancy green, blue, and all these other colors that you may want a cool lighting effect or an LED light to do. Again, this is a different type of light. If you want to use the Bluetooth remote, which I think is kind of like the biggest pain point about this light, because it's not an automatic thing, it just turns on. And right now, I think hopefully the Bluetooth remote will work. I just turn this on. Let's see if we can turn the light off. Yes. So This time it works really well. There are some times when I turn it on, the Bluetooth remote doesn't want to talk, sometimes the light flicker. It's been a constant battle trying to get this to work, and it's not always consistent. The controls on the back of the light I have no problem with. The control with the Bluetooth remote sometimes can be really annoying, and the only thing they say in the manual is to set this to the same group and the same channel, to which sometimes I do, and it still doesn't really work right. But anyway, with this, what I can do is choose a different mode. I can control the color temperature, and as you're seeing, I'm bumping up the number on the remote and it's reflecting on the light, so everything is working just fine. Now, if you find a remote to be a little bit more cumbersome and you want to get a little bit more control, well, let's talk about the app, because you can certainly use the phone app for this. And what I'm simply going to do is start a screen recording so you can really see what's going on and how the app really works and function. And I'll share what's on my phone screen with you guys in the final video. So what you simply have to do is go to the App Store and download the Weeylite app. And the moment you do, I mean, there's no Bluetooth pairing with this light whatsoever. Set it to the same channel, set it to the same group, and it should work. It's kind of amazing when it does work. For instance, I can turn off the light right now and it totally responds to everything that I do. But sometimes trying to get this to work and just pair with each other nicely in the beginning is very difficult. And with my experience using any Bluetooth device, normally you go into the preferences or into like the setting, the gear thing, go into the Bluetooth menu and pair it first. You don't have to do it with this light. It makes it convenient, but you also never initiate that process. So if you've done this thing before, you're going to think that something is missing, and at least that's the way how I've seen it. But so far, everything seems to work. Right now, we have the light at 100. I can simply go in and pull up and down the scale, which I think is really neat. You can also change the color temperature, and there's also presets on the bottom. For example, I want 3000 Kelvin, boom. If I want 5500 Kelvin, I can just do that. And you can certainly go in and choose the custom color temperature. When you press OK, you would simply choose the K, and that will match the light to whatever color temperature you want to use. I set this to 5600 Kelvin so that it matches with the light that I have in my studio, and this is technically supposed to be producing the exact same light, but we're going to see if that is the situation or not. So beyond that, in this app, there is HSI, which changes the color of a light, and this will not work on this light whatsoever because it's bi-color. It's not an RGB light. There's no way, if I bump this up or down, you can see there's no color change, there's no percent power change. It doesn't really matter. Then lastly, there is a scene mode to which you can choose slow, normal, and fast. And some of these are preset that are generic for their other lights. For example, there's like the colored red, there's like the aurora effect, to which it doesn't really do anything because it can't produce that green or anything like that. So you're kind of limited on some of the creative modes. For example, you can do like a TV and it will simulate the way how a TV would look reflecting on a wall in a room. There are some creative modes in this thing, although I wouldn't say they're definitely the most useful thing, especially for someone like me who's a pro. What I simply want to do is just have a really nice, consistent white light. So what Weeylite have sold about this light is the fact that it's nice, it's compact. As I already mentioned, this is a really great light to take on location because I'm just running this off battery right now. I don't even need wall power. It is really cool. The heat dissipation is pretty good. I mean, the aluminum body definitely helps a lot. But what we want to know is, how does it perform? How accurate is the color of a light? Weeylite claimed that with this light, you're going to get a CRI or a color reference index of 95 or greater, which anytime you have a CRI higher than 90 is considered a pretty good light. It's considered pretty accurate, and it represents many of the tones that, you know, a normal light can offer. So what I have done is been able to borrow a Sekonic C800U or a Sekonic C800, and we're going to run a CRI test. Now to do that, I need to turn off these lights first, so I don't want the light that I have in my studio to contaminate this. I will turn this down temporarily. And we're just going to measure this light. We're also going to test a few other things too. For instance, I want to see if this light in general is producing the color temperature that it says on the back of the LCD. Right now, this is set to 5600. I want to know if this is accurate 5600 or is off from 5600. So let's turn everything off. Okay, so now that we have all the light turned off, what I'm simply going to do is put this color meter right in front of the light and see what we're able to get. So far, I have this set up to 75% at 5600 Kelvin. And let's see if we're going to get 5600 Kelvin out of this light. So far, we were able to get 5541, close to 5600, but not really quite right on. I think that, some plus and minuses are going to happen in light, and that's certainly okay. The TLCI, that is the color index, is at 99, and that's pretty good. And there's also the CRI index, which is reading at 93.9. So if I want to use this light along my studio light, it won't necessarily produce all the same spectrum. And there are certain bars, as you can see on the colors that are short, that are going to be different than the color output of lights that I have in my studio. But this can definitely be a good light that you would use on locations, the background, or anything like that. And if you need something on battery, I think that this will work really well. What we're going to do next, though, is let's turn this up to 100 and let's test it at 5600 Kelvin. Let's see what we're getting. So when we turn this up, the CRI for this is still 93.9, so not quite the 95 that they were saying. And the other thing is that if we go into the TLCI, we still get 99 for that, but the color temperature is 55.26, so it changes very slightly, but I mean, overall, I still say this is pretty good. What I am curious though, and let's say you are a photographer, or even you just like do videos every now and then, but you want a light that you can use to proofprint, I think this is a pretty good light for that. So what I'm simply going to do is leave the output at 100, but I'm going to change the color temperature, and let's bring this down to, say, around 5000 Kelvin to use it as a light and see if we can use this to proof our print. So if 5000 Kelvin is reading 4953, I would say this is pretty much within the plus or minus range. The TLCI is 99, and also the CRI for this one is 93.6. So I was expecting the CRI to be a little bit higher. Let's try now at 6500 Kelvin daylight, or D65, as we would match this to our screen or our computer screen that we have. I'll run a test, and for this we're getting 94.7, really close to 95. The one thing I want to mention is that when we're running tests on these light, and when these manufacturers test a light, they generally test it at a couple range and give you an average. So at every color temperature, or at every single temperature, and also at every different output, the CRI for the light is definitely going to change. How does this look though in TLCI? We're going to take a look at that now. TLCI is still at 99, so that's pretty good. The color itself, the color temperature, this one is set to 6500. We're able to read around 6635 Kelvin. So a little bit more on the cooler side. This is not reading 100% correct what is really showing on the back of the LCD, but you do have that option to go in and change the color output. Let's turn the light back on and kind of give us some more of my thoughts about this light. And I'm not really here to run the testing on this light at all the different color temperatures and a different CRI range. What I really want to know is overall, how does it perform? And I think this is a good performer. It is a very lightweight light that you can take on location with you at a price point, including the battery pack, that's literally under $250. It doesn't come with a battery though, but it comes with everything you need. So I think if you need something light, something portable, that's fairly well built, that you can take on location, that will bring up some ambience in the room, especially if you're a video pro, this is definitely something to consider. If you're a photographer and you happen to do some videos like I do, a lot of times I have a tendency to use these lights to do proofing on my print, or just even like the smaller LED light box. But the nice thing about this is the CRI tends to be a little bit better, and the color temperature on here tends to be a little bit more closer to the range that I'm reading out on the back of the LCD versus those still light that just literally run on internal battery power. So those are some of my thoughts on the Ninja 200, which I think it's highly capable. If you have any questions or comments about this, leave them in the section below. Give this a like, subscribe, and hit on the bell if you're new. And remember, in art we trust. One more anecdote that I wanted to share as I'm packing up this light and getting ready to tear down this set is the fact that if you have the fan turned off, the light can be fairly warm. So a lot of times what I would do is either turn it on or off, or go into the menu, turn on the fan, and literally shut down the light at 0%. You're going to have the fan running, which is dissipating heat from the light right now, and is really moving a lot of that heat much faster. So what I would do is leave this running until it cools down a little more, then I'll pack it up in the back rather than just throwing this hot light or this warm light into the back right away. And in this bag, there's not a lot of space for that heat to really dissipate further, so you don't want to really make that kind of into an oven per se, or a passive oven. Just some tip that you can use with this particular light.